Good evening, everyone. Tonight, I want to talk about growing plants. The spring is here. I feel this is a great way to start off the season. But as you can see from this image, my yard's not there yet. Um, we back off here a little bit. You see all these dark lines. A lot of them are because of the sun casting shadows. But if we zoom in a little closer, you can see that some of them are, in fact, downed trees. We had a couple of good storms come through this year, and I've got some cleanup to do. You also notice that there's a lot of barren area, which makes sense because it is just coming back off of winter. Now, what I'm going to talk about tonight, you might think of as just something for a farmer, but I want you to also consider it from the perspective of taking care of your own property, as I'm doing here, or if you happen to be a landscaper who is taking care of somebody else's property, perhaps it's a vacation property that you're taking care of. This is the type of thing that we can do for you. This photograph was actually taken from a height of 400 feet, uh, with several photographs, so you can see the area that was encompassed here. But whether you're checking on a large or a small field of plants, we all have to evaluate the health of the plants and how they're progressing. Now, you can walk the fields, or like this, you can have some imagery to go through. Now, using images has two benefits. First of all, it's a good reference, right? I can see what my yard looks like now. I can see what it's going to look like later on, take pictures between the two, and see what I've done to improve the quality of uh, my yard, my grass, etc. The second thing is, if you are a farmer, you probably spend the day either selling or working the fields. Having images and reports means that you can take a look at things later on. And we'll get to the reports in a minute. But you can do things when you're not able to work the fields. And you can see what the fields look like when you can't walk them. Now, a well planned drone mission is repeatable, and that allows you to objectively see how your plants are doing. You can see how they're progressing, and you can see what impact what you've done has had on the plants, which will help you to plan out what you can do in the following years. If you know that you've got a particular area that's causing you issues this year, that the plants are stressed or they need an extra boost of fertilizer, you can plan that out for next year and see if it needs the same treatment next year and maybe get ahead of it so that next year it doesn't have to have the same treatment. Now, I flew this area, which is about half of my property, and I have 13 acres. So let's take a look at the flight itself. So on the screen, you can see my flight. I'm 1,060 feet above sea level. I flew the mission at 300 feet above ground. I traveled 7,880 feet, so almost 8,000 feet, and it only took 17 minutes. So think about that. Could you walk that amount of distance and get an idea of your crops and how things look in just 17 minutes? There's the flight path. You can see where I started and the trekking that I did around the property in this grid pattern to collect information about the property. You'll notice that there's certain areas here that we could see in the photograph that were outside of the range of the path. And that's simply because at 300 feet, you capture a lot of area. So that's what the path of the flight, and you can see what it looks like in good weather when the trees are all green. But now let's take a look at how technology can aid in our ability to see issues with the plants. There's three processes that I'm going to talk about. No, there won't be a quiz. And as a customer, I don't expect you to know about the inner workings of these things. Instead, I provide you the information so that you can go make the informed decisions about the care you want to take and the resources that you want to use on your property. So the three of them are NDVI, VARI, and VNDVI. Now, NDVI is the normalized difference vegetation index. All of these use spectrums of light to determine how healthy the plants are. VARI is visible atmospherically resistant index. You know these have got to be made by a government agency, right? And VNDVI is similar to NDVI, but doesn't require the same spectrum of light as NDVI. And all of them help you to see how your plants are doing rather quickly. So let's take a look at the overflight. Which you should see on your screen right now. This is a map data image. Interesting. So this is what the area would look like under normal circumstances. There's that pathway that you saw. There's the uh, high tension wires in the back. Even has the same shadow that you saw in my photograph. Now, this is what the area looks like in normal weather. Looks like this is a fall shot. Now, here's what it looks like now. All right, you got the overlay of the image on top of it, and you can see that, yep, there is not a lot of anything down there. It's brown with a little bit of snow still left. But now let's take a look at plant health. So we're going to dial that one up and look at this map. Now you'll see greens and reds. The reds are the stressed areas, the areas that need attention. The greens are areas that don't need attention. Interestingly enough, with the way this comes out, the roads come out green and the buildings come out green. Not sure why that is with this particular one, but just to give you a feel for the other types. In theory, every camera is able to see um, all of the spectrums of light necessary to do NDVI. And if you'll notice, the picture looks a little different here. Um, you see the really red areas, which makes sense. The house isn't growing, the road isn't growing. So it makes a little more sense from that perspective. And if we were to zoom in here a little bit, you can see this kind of swirling set of colors. But at the same time, if we look at this exact same area using this method, you'll see that the things that really look good are the trees, right? That green at the top of the tree. Everything else that isn't green looks stressed unless it's snow, in which case it figures the snow is in pretty good shape. But you can see from this image, which I understandably is a poor image considering the time of the year, but you can see the areas that would need attention, right? So all of these red areas are not healthy. Well, if we go back and look at the original photograph, that's true. They aren't green. So, from a plant standpoint, these areas are not healthy. So, this gives us exactly what we want. Now, this particular um, software package basically just gives me, in this mode, an image that I can use. I'm looking at another one that actually goes more in depth, and I can even get reports of what resources would be necessary for different areas, so that you could understand what needs to be done. And again, as you saw before, 17 minutes, and this has it stacked at 7.5 acres. So think of your area. I mean, I look around and it would take me far more than 17 minutes to walk the property just to see all those dead trees and to make note of them. But now, not only do I know that they're there, I know where they are, and I can go take care of them. And then as I take care of them, I can have this picture and I can check off which ones I've gotten to. If I'm not sure about a given area, well, each individual photograph has a GPS coordinate stamped onto it. So I know exactly where I am. So if for some reason I can't get my bearings from this top down shot, I can use my phone's GPS, try to match up where I am and get to that exact position. I do not appear to have a lack of uh, work to do. So I'm probably going to run out of good weather before I run out of trees that need to be cut up. So I'm probably not going to have to worry about tracking down where the trees are. I'm probably going to have more than I can handle. But that's what I wanted to share with you guys tonight is this ability to do a very large area very quickly and then be able to demonstrate where there are issues and where things need to be addressed. Again, from a landscaping perspective, as I'm using it here, you can see the value. So let's say this was your field and you have crops out there. Maybe you're an established farmer. Maybe you're one of the new marijuana farmers who has a field of crop out there. You want to keep an eye on it. You want to make sure that everything is flourishing. By having these flyovers, you can see where the stressed areas are. And by not having that image, but having this image instead, you can see where things are height wise. This was shot from 300 feet up to make sure that I had a good area that was underneath what I was shooting. And because the trees that I'm flying over are, my pine trees are around 100 feet tall. So this keeps me from flying into a tree as it maps out the area. doing a field where crops are much lower and there aren't as many trees around, for example, uh, allows me to fly at a much lower height, which would allow me to get much more detail. So if you look at these areas out here that are farmland, you'll notice how easy it would be to fly over these areas and get fantastic images of the crops from a height that would, one, not damage the crops or be in the way of the crops or interfere with them in any way, but at the same time, still allow us to get a little bit more detail than I can get at 300 feet and a lot more detail than we can get from the satellite image to show how the crops are growing and to see if there's an area that's a little higher than the other or a little lower. Add to that the ability to see if they're stressed or not, and you can see where your resources could best go to get things looking their best. Maybe it's fertilizer, maybe it's water, but rather than you've done your first round and you've gone through and laid out the area with fertilizer and things, you've plowed your fields, you've gotten it all done. But now that that initial work is done, where is it that you need to apply your resources? Where's the best place for you to spend your time so that your crops look good, but at the same time you are selling them and making money? Or if you're a landscaper, uh, be it a personal project that you're just working on your home, and maybe you were like my folks, you came up was a vacation home, you were up on the weekends or something like that. You could take a look at what needs to be done and then plan for it coming into the weekend, or not having the need to have to walk the fields would allow you to see what needs to be done, plan for it, bring those resources out and take care of the issue, which as a landscaper means you've got the proper tools, you're not bringing too much with you, you've got the proper people there, and you don't waste any time going back and forth because you found there was something else you needed that you didn't think you would when you initially went out. So it gives you the time to get more clients because you're not wasting time going back and forth or being unsure about what you need to bring out to a given landscaping project. That being the long story, the short is as a drone pilot doing this kind of work, my job is to help you. The way I see that I can help you is by cutting down the amount of time that you need to go out in the field, making it very easy for you to see what needs to be done, handling it so that you're not spending a lot of time walking around. It'll reduce your need for pesticides, herbicides, and fertilizers because you'll be able to see where the issues are. And you're not going to have to be out or have your people out walking the fields and try to get that same uh, idea of how the crops are doing by constantly walking the fields when we can just fly over it for a few minutes, spend a couple of hours processing, coming up with idea of how the crops are doing, and providing all of that to you so you have a detailed amount of information to go through to help you with your crops. So I hope this is helpful. I hope this gives you guys an idea of what possible things we can do with crop or landscape monitoring using drones. And I will talk to you guys next week.